back down. I decided that that wasn't going to work for me. I think about the day I got anointed, and Samuel came to my house and said, he left it secretly from the palace. He was afraid because he knew Saul was not a happy guy. And if he was going to go anoint another king, another ruler for Israel, Saul wasn't going to be happy. So he snuck out with a cow and told Saul, I'm going to go sacrifice down in Bethlehem. And he got there and he's like, okay, hey Jesse, where are your sons? And my dad brought in the first three sons, and Samuel was like, ooh, they're tall and strong, that must be the king. So he tried to anoint each one, and God said, nope, not him. And so he went to the next one, and God said, nope, not him. And so my father brought all 7 of his sons in front of him. And Samuel just kept saying, no, no, no. And then finally, he got to me. Samuel asked me, he said, hey Jesse, do you have another son? Because it's coming out of your family and I need a son. And God hasn't shown it to me yet. So he sent somebody to get me out of the fields. I came out of the fields just like a shepherd would, dirty, smelly, and stinky. And there was Samuel to anoint me. As I got anointed with oil, I just thought to myself, I don't look like everybody else in the room. I'm short. I'm a redhead. I smell. And I thought, is he making a good choice? Then I had to have faith that God was there. And God never makes a mistake, so he was making a good choice. And I was anointed. And then I started thinking about the people in the room. Are they all looking at me going, he's different. He's different than everybody. Is Samuel making a good choice? And I don't know. But he made his choice and I'm it. That's why I'm here today telling you my story. That's why I get to have this little guy. So I'm sorry, everybody wants to be back to the war. My bad. We'll get back to the war. So there we were. I told Saul, I got this, no problem. And he said, you sure? I'm like, oh yeah. And he gave me that blessing, put his armor on me, and I was like, yes! And then I started looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, one day this is going to be me. I'm going to be the king. I'm going to have armor, but today it's not that day. The armor doesn't fit. When I think about Saul in the armor, all I think about is how he's like every other king now. He's no longer like our people, having faith that God is going to direct us and save us. He trusts in his armor and the things that he can add. And I went back to my anointing. I said, I was anointed in a shepherd's clothes. I can be a warrior in shepherd's clothes also. And so I said, Saul, thanks, but no thanks. And then he blessed me on the way out. And I thought how ironic it was that a guy, the king, would bless me. The king who God has left, who has nothing left to do with God, is going to bless me, the young boy who's filled with God and dwelled with God, going out to defend God against the enemy. And I just kind of giggled to myself as I walked out. But at the same time, he was the king. And if you're the king, you get the respect just because you're the king. So I had to give him the respect, and I just had to thank him. So I left the tent, and even more doubt stepped in my mind. I was like, well, maybe Saul gave me his armor so he could try and take some of the glory from the battle. And that glory isn't mine to give. That glory belongs to the Lord, because I'm going out fighting for the Lord and not for myself. But I left. I found 5 smooth stones. And they're not the little stones. They're not like this little stones where you see a pebble and where you'd see a pebble. They were stones. They were the size of my fist. They were smooth and even, so they fit in my sling nicely. And you're like, but there's only one giant. Why would you need 5 stones? And I said, well, Goliath has a couple brothers, 4 of them. And the rumor in the camp was if you slayed Goliath, his 4 brothers were coming to get you. So I wanted to be ready for his brothers also. The battle was fast. I walked out, he taunted me. He's like, You gonna come out and kill me with that stick, you dog? And I said, no. I come out and I fight in the name of the Lord. I'm not going to do anything. The Lord is going to give me this battle. As a matter of fact, I'm going to kill you, and then we're going to kill all your army, and we're going to leave your bodies out here for the wild animals to eat, and the birds to pluck out your eyes. And I'm going to cut your head off, just to get it done. And the Lord will give me this victory. So there I was. I was ready. I had my sling and my stone, and I moved to the left, and I moved to the right, and I flung it right between his eyes, and he went down like a rock. I knew that was going to be it for him. But I said I killed him. I stoned him to death, just like my people did at the gates when people would blaspheme in the old times. When people would blaspheme God, they'd take him out to the gate and stone him, and that's what I did. But I don't want God to be a liar, so I went out, drew his sword, cut his head off right there. It took me one big whack, and then I could hold it up like this, and I said, victory is mine. Victory is the Lord's. And the next thing you know, the Philistines all ran away. It was crazy. Because you know what Goliath yelled at us? For 40 days, he yelled twice a day. When I have victory, the people of Israel will be my slaves. But that's the world for you. They lied. After I killed him, all his friends ran like little rabbits. They were fast, but not fast enough. We chased them down. We caught them before they got to their hole. Or in this case, before they got to their city of Gath. And then we were lucky enough to come back and plunder. We were able to plunder everything they had. And some people go, isn't that stealing? But that's not the way we look at it. The Philistines attacked during the summer because all our wars are fought during the summer, which is our time for harvest and sheep shearing, all the important things that we do. So really, what happens is we won the war and then we got paid. We took their stuff. And that was the good thing about the Philistines is they were pretty well armed. And being an agrarian culture, we couldn't even make bronze weapons. So every time we won, we were able to capture a few more weapons to be able to defend ourselves easier. So as we leave today, I don't want you to go out thinking that this story is just one story about how David came in and killed the giant, and you guys are going to go out and go, oh, I'm going to be David, a man of faith, and go kill the giants in my life. You can sum it up like that, but that doesn't really work. It doesn't fit the story. So what I want you to think about is, are you living a life of faith? So if you're not living a life of faith, you're going to end up like, this is so horrible. All right, if you're not going to live a life of faith, you're going to end up like Saul. You're going to be left out wandering. I don't think Jesus came and is going to leave you, because I believe that his grace is bigger than your sin. But at the same time, I can't sit here and tell you that Saul, or going out and sinning every day, is going to glorify God in any way. So, what I try and do when I preach any sermon is I try and find the gospel. And the gospel is Jesus came, died on the cross for you, and did all the work that needs to get done. So the life you lead today, you can't be more saved today. You can't find a place that says, I am doing more work than Jesus did on the cross. So in the story, when you look at like the soldiers, they're there for 40 days. They're just in a place of confusion because they have no leader. So if you're in that place of confusion where you know God's going to save you, and you know God has something to do, but you don't know what it is, I encourage you to talk to Pastor Ken, talk to one of the board members, or what do we call it, leadership, or somebody on the leadership team. Because what we want to get you to do is we want to get you out of that spot of just hanging out and being confused about where God's going to go with you. And just like the story of David, it took somebody to get you going. It took somebody to get the rest of the army going. If you look at the army, once this happened and David was like, hey, check this out, guys. What happened? They all ran and did what they knew what needed to be done. I got ahead here, and I can show you where to go with the rest of your life. So as I sum it up, if you're in a land of confusion, talk to somebody who has a little more spiritual time than you and a little better walk, and get out of that land of confusion.